Boom! What's going on, everyone? It is Steve Larsen, and you're listening to Sales Funnel Radio. Today, I'm going to talk to you guys about product evolution.
I've spent the last 4 years learning from the most brilliant marketers today. And now I've left my 9-to-5 to take the plunge and build my $1 million business. The real question is, how will I do it without VC funding or debt, completely from scratch? This podcast is here to give you the answer. Join me and follow along as I learn, apply, and share marketing strategies to grow my online business using only today's best internet sales funnels. My name is Steve Larsen, and welcome to Sales Funnel Radio.
What's up, guys? Hey, I'm excited for today. I got the whiteboard with me. If you guys are watching on YouTube, if you're listening on iTunes or some other place, welcome. I'm so excited for this. This episode specifically has been a long time in the making. I'm very excited for it. I have gone through and I've I think I spent the last hour and a half just thinking through it alone, let alone the months prior to. I've been trying to figure out how to describe this very critical lesson, okay? And I don't know another way to be able to describe this except for like 2 or 3 stories. So I got to tell them here real quick, okay? What I'm trying to do is I first want you guys to know, right? This episode specifically is all about how I create good products. I'm not talking about offers. I'm talking about products, okay? Products and offers are totally different, okay? And I'm here to talk about specifically, right, product creation. Now, I had the good pleasure of one of my semesters in college. I'll never bag on college. I think it's good to do. It's not how you make money though, but it does open up the noggin a bit, right? So anyway, one of my semesters of college is kind of cool because the professors walked up and they said, "Hey, check it out. You have no classes this entire semester. Your only task is to make as much money as you physically can." That's what the whole semester was, okay? And they assigned us a random industry, and I got stuck in the food industry. And if you guys know me personally, I am not a good cook. And I was like, crap, like I don't want to be in the food. Like put me in the knick-knack. Put me in like the little, the e-com space. Put me in I was like, food? Seriously? And it ended up being the best education I got the entire time I was in college. And it's fascinating though, okay? At the beginning, what they did is they put us into groups of like 15. So we're in these small groups, and we went on this retreat, and they brought us up and super high mountain place for like 3 days, and we just did a whole bunch of like team building stuff. And I always made fun of that stuff, but if you guys ever heard of like the terms like form, storm, norm, perform, like, right, meaning you're gonna get with a group of people are gonna unofficially be assigned roles, you're gonna fight with each other, and then finally the team can actually start producing, right? Well, we did that in that 3-day period, right? And that was one of the reasons they did it so fast with us. And anyway, so we go and we start brainstorming, like, hey, number one, what you gotta do is just start brainstorming cool product ideas, right? Start brainstorming cool product ideas. And so we went through and we would, start writing out ideas for the name of the business, for what the product is gonna be, what the price point should be. We're all over the place just coming out with this crazy deep dive of what we think would be best to sell, right? Well, when we came back out of our high mountain escapade, it wasn't challenging or anything. It was a lot of fun though. When we came back in, they said, "Hey, what's helpful is to start asking your customers about what it is that they want to buy." And they started teaching us about design thinking. Okay, that's what they called it. Design thinking, meaning I'm going to go in and I'm going to start designing. Here's how to actually think in order to design cool stuff, right? And they started teaching us these really cool processes. It was really, really fascinating. It was a ton of fun. And among those were different ways of brainstorming methods, different ways to go through and create products with customers, which is where a lot of what I know comes from. It's fascinating. It's really, really cool. Well, I remember there was this really fascinating point where they started telling us we had to keep a journal of what we were learning each day. And I found the journal. And I just read it for like the last little while here. That's one of the reasons. This thing is full, okay? And super awesome. And I started reading the journal entries and what I was writing. And I'm so glad I took it seriously because like there's some good crap in here. And just what everyone's been teaching. And it's fascinating to see what they were teaching us. It was a combination of how to be a creative mixed with what they call data-driven decisions, right? And I'm not the first person to ever say that at all. But that was when I was like, oh yeah, that makes total sense. Why would I not make decisions based on data, right? That makes sense. There's security in that, okay? And so remember, I'm specifically talking about product creation here, okay? These are I'm gonna go through 3 separate things on how to actually create products, okay? And some of these stories, some of you guys may have heard in the past, but I don't think I've ever really done an episode where it kind of like laced it all together, right? So first of all, remember, I'm not talking about offers, okay? I'm not talking about offers at all. I'm talking about product creation. okay, and how to make sweet products that make people be like, oh my gosh, that's so freaking cool, right? And so what I'm doing, anyway, I'm going and talking about product creation itself. And the first thing, right, that makes sense is and the first time I ever learned about this was data-driven decisions, right? Meaning I can go out, I can see what other competitors are doing, essentially funnel hacking, right? I can start asking and see what other markets are doing, what other products are doing, how they're making money, right? Very, very very data-driven, obviously, data-driven decisions. Okay, so it's data-driven decisions. And what was interesting is, like, as we started pushing forward, as we started learning all these cool techniques and methods, I started having these really massive ahas on what actually created good products. Okay, I remember, and I've told this story in the past, but I remember, so the guy, the professor that was assigned to our group, okay, they were not allowed to intervene with us at all, only when we asked specific questions. So it was very much like, let's throw you off a cliff and see what you do in free fall. And the whole semester was like that. And it was a bunch of fun. Anyway, so I was voted to be the CEO of it at the beginning of it. And what was cool is I got a lot of really cool interactions with him. Well, in one of the days, he kind of became one of my first unofficial mentors. And I spent a lot of one-on-one time with him. He was fantastic. Okay, he was the CMO of Denny's and of Pizza Hut. The guy invented stuffed crust pizza. Oh, right. The guy was the man. And anyway, he was super cool. Well, one day he walked in and he goes, okay, this is what we're going to do. We are going to go in and I want to teach you guys more ways on brainstorming effectively. And so we walked in this room, right? We walked in this room and there's like toys, like child toys all along the tables. Child toys all over the place. There's Play-Doh, Silly Putty. There's Lincoln Logs and Connects. There's Legos. There's toys all over the place. There's, anyway, any kind of toy you can imagine all over the place. The room is filled with them. And we're like, what the heck? We walk on in and like, this guy was awesome, okay? And then next to him though was a squirt bottle, okay? And what we had to do was there was one person that was the scribe, okay? And they'd stand up and we wrote down on the board the problem we were trying to solve. And we were like, okay, here's the problem. Right, we're trying to solve this. And what was fascinating was when we would go in and we start writing different solutions down, he would watch us like a hawk. He would watch like a hawk. And when somebody said something that was like a negative reaction, like let's say I'm up here and we're like, okay, we're gonna figure out how to solve world hunger. And somebody's like, oh yeah, let's feed the world with Big Macs. You know, and I'm like, I don't know if that's a good idea. Any kind of negative reaction, right? He would take the squirt bottle and he would shoot it in our face. And he would yell, bad kitty. And he would start spraying it at us. Guy was a crazy. He was awesome though. He's the man. And what he's trying to teach us, and I wrote this down in the journal, right? I wrote this down in here. And I said, in here, I said, ridiculous ideas are essential in the creative process. That's what I wrote down. Ridiculous ideas are essential in the creative process, okay? And what was fascinating about this process is that when we would start with an idea, oh, you know what, in order to, we were selling food. What if we did, and we found out the market wanted empanadas. I didn't even know that was, okay? I was like, okay, right? What if, how could we sell it this way? How could we sell it this way? You know, and when we actually started realizing like, hey, you know, what if we had this idea? When we started brainstorming, this really interesting string of events started happening, right? We started listing out tons of our own ideas, which is great. But we had to get inside of this creative zone where there was no judgment. And I found that is one of the major reasons why people that I am coaching now do not move forward. They are afraid that their ideas are stupid. They're afraid that they're going to be exposed as a fraud, right? There's some imposter syndrome going on. Like, oh my gosh, people are going to find out that I'm really not this amazing individual. It's like, well, you're literally creating a new identity. Of course you're going to feel that way, right? Right? I've totally had imposter syndrome in my life. I totally get that. Okay. But what's interesting about this is that like you have to give yourself license to go to the crazy zone, okay? You have to give yourself license to be able to go into these spaces and these areas where like, hey, you know what? Let's write some crazy stuff down, right? When I was doing the FAT event, right, the Funnel Hackathon event at ClickFunnels, that's one of the ways I would teach them, right? When we sold the original 2 Comma Club coaching event, it was the night before we were gonna sell something. We sat at a board. It was Russell, Dave, Brent, Melanie, and myself. I think that was all in the room, and we just, in front of a board, just started writing down cool things that we could offer them for this package, okay? And we wrote everything down that was crazy. I want you to know that we use this. We wrote everything down that was nuts. Oh man, they're gonna come for this 3-day event. They're gonna fly into this crazy place called Boise, Idaho, right? They're like, you know what I mean? And they're gonna come in. Oh, this is gonna be. You know what? They're gonna stay in Russell's pajamas. Oh my gosh, this is gonna be so cool. You know what? Oh my gosh, they're gonna brush their teeth with Steven's toothbrush in the morning. Oh yeah, they're gonna love that. Holy crap, right? Does that make sense? And we go in and we write down all these things that are like nuts, right? The ludicrous, and we write down all this stuff, and then we go back and we cross out all the stuff that's totally unrealistic. Okay, they're probably not gonna stay in Russell's pajamas. All right, you know what? Not gonna use Steven's toothbrush. That's a little weird. All right, you know his wife's not gonna make breakfast for him. They're not gonna stay in his house. Okay, it's a little bit crazy. But what we're left with at the end is this product and or offer. You can use this for products or offers. Okay, because remember they are different. That is prolific. That is new. That no one's ever really done before. But is also from a place of security. It's really interesting. Okay. So data-driven decisions, super impactful, super powerful, should be amazing. But there is a hindrance inside of it, right? If I go in, do you think, you guys have heard this story before as well, right? My wife was, we literally were driving to the hospital to have our first baby, okay? And we were driving, right? And so anyway, just before I move on, okay? The whole point of this one is I want you to know product creation very much involves data-driven decisions. Okay, very much involves data-driven decisions. Said another way, funnel hacking. That's data-driven decisions, right? That's where you farm data. You see what's already being done. Moving on to the next one, okay? Number 2 of 3 here, okay? The second thing though is that, anyway, right? My wife and I, we were going to the hospital to have our kid. And if you go in, like the flaw with data-driven decisions is that when you go in and you start doing things like an ask campaign, right? I was texting Noah Keegan in the hospital. We're about to have our first kid. And I was like, hey dude, what's up, man? And he had this offer where you could text him before you actually bought. And I know I've just told this story recently. So just to recap for those of you guys who didn't hear it, right? I was texting him. I was like, hey dude, I've got all this data. That's basically what I told him. I've been asking all these people and I want to go launch this business. Do you think that's a good idea? I can't tell you how many times I get asked that on stage, okay, from people with the Q&A section. Do you think it's a good idea? I get asked that all the time, okay? And I was asking, right, this was 5 years ago. I asked that same question to Noah Keegan. I was like, hey, what's up? And he goes, I should probably ask him about this. I don't know if he remembers it, maybe not. But it was about 5 years ago, right? So my kid's almost 5. And anyway, he texts back and he goes, I don't know. I was like, what do you mean you don't know? Like, I've asked all these people that this is a great product idea. And I said, is this a good product? And they said, yes. So therefore I should go do this product. Is that right? I should probably go do this. And they're like, he's like, well, man, I don't know. And I got a little frustrated. So did he. I was like, dude, all these people have said yes. I've collected tons of data. I've done my homework on it. Should I go launch it? And he goes, dude, I don't know. Right? I don't know. I let people vote with their wallets, not their mouths. And I was like, it's interesting, right? So the data is important. It shows you where the yellow brick road stopped, right? It shows you where you need to get to. But it's not what creates something that's prolific. It doesn't get you that extra step out. It doesn't help you create that next brick. It just helps you know that you're creating something that's somewhat secured. Does that make sense? This is a huge thing to understand. Okay, because most people to go do is like, do you think this is a good product? Right, and then they go ask like their friends and family or their dad or something. Like, hey, check this out. My parents said this is really, do you think this is a good idea? I was like, well, are they gonna be the ones buying it in the first place? Well, no, then why the heck are you asking them, right? It makes no sense why you're asking that individual if that's a good product that is out there, right? If they're not the ones gonna be buying it anyway, right? You're not the one buying your own product, so your opinions only matter to like this amount. Does that make sense? The market is the one that pays for it. You don't fill your own wallet, right? So, data-driven decisions, massive, massive flaws inside of it, okay? I'm talking about as far as creating like prolific products, okay? Things that are, anyway, huge, anyway. So, huge flaws inside of that, okay? Next one here I want you to understand is, this comes from a book I've really been enjoying lately called Niche Down. And been really, really awesome right at the very beginning of the book. And I was like, I can't agree more with what this guy's saying, okay? He literally has, here, this is it. I was laughing so hard when he said this. One of the things I've been saying a lot lately is that your whole goal in product creation and your whole goal in funnel building, your whole goal in market creation is to be different, not better, okay? Right? Different, not better, right? When I ask people, how come I would buy your thing over the next guy's, and they go default to like, well, because we have a better this, we have a better that, we have a better this, we have a better that, I immediately already know they're going to be strapped for cash. It's not enough of a reason for someone to jump out. right? You're going to be selling to somebody who frankly, it's going to become a feature war really fast. It'll become a price and a feature war super fast. Okay, your goal is to become different, not better. And I've been laughing because this book, right, Niche Down, big and pink, okay, says that. It says it comes down to leveraging the exponential value of what makes you different, rather than leaning on the incremental value of what makes you better. And I was like, hallelujah. I was sitting on a plane, I read that, and I was like, woo! Right? That's exactly it. That's 100% exactly what I'm trying to say. It's all about your product should be different, not better. Okay, it's a very subtle way to think about that. I was on a Q&A for Two Comic Club X a little bit ago, and that's exactly what I said. And I was like, it's about being different, not better. And I think that's a better way, it's an easier way, fast way to understand what it is that we're trying to share all the time, okay? It's about being different, not better. If I'm like, oh, this is a better widget, that's gonna be rough. That's gonna be really, really rough. Okay, anyways, let me move on here, okay? Third thing here is this game. Again, remember, I'm talking about products. I'm not talking about offers, and I am not talking about markets or categories, okay? And if you're like, Steven, that is a lot of vocab. I understand that, and I understand a lot of my podcast lately has been definitions, okay, which could be freaking annoying and boring. So I'm trying to keep it engaging, trying to keep you very involved with this, and hopefully you guys have been enjoying this, okay? But I want you to understand, right? It is not about going out and creating something that is brand new, totally prolific, something that nobody's ever seen before. You know what I mean? Like that's what college taught me until I got to this semester. Okay. We ended up in that business where I was in that food semester, right, where I was creating that business. We ended up doing $2,000 to $3,000 a week in sales to poor college students. We did quite well. We made a lot of money in that, and I had a lot of false beliefs and fears melt away from that as we started building that, and it was awesome, super cool. At the end of it, you go and you donate all that money out to charity and such, and so it was a bunch of fun. So, anyways, we went and we made a sizable amount of money. And I sat back after that semester was over. It was easily the most impactful one that I had in college. And I sat back and I remember thinking, like, how can I teach what I just learned? Okay, because I was already very aware that I needed to coach other people for me to speed up my personal progress, right? It's one of the reasons I do these episodes. Okay, and what I did is I actually wrote a chapter of a book. I didn't finish it, but this is it, guys. I freaking found it. How cool is this? It's awesome. It's only like 60-ish pages, but I was just trying to write down and encompass the things I learned. And I should probably put this in the new book I'm writing now. Anyways, I'm writing an offer creation book, which I'm super stoked because there's not really a book out there like that. Anyway, it was it was how a group of college students used these 5 rules to get our business off the ground in like a week for $3K a week. Which is awesome, right? And I went through and I wrote it down. And one of the points that I wrote, I'm just laughing because I just barely found this thing in like some cupboards and stuff. And I went and found it and I was like, oh, check this out. And there's this whole idea that I was trying to put across called most of the time what people say you need to have, right? This totally brand new thing, something that's completely prolific, right? When that's not the case at all, right? I call that product Big Bang Theory, right? Bam! This brand new thing that's never been seen before just pops out. Boosh! Product Big Bang Theory. Product Big Bang Theory is like so risky, okay? It's like blue oceans that are truly blue, that truly nobody has actually seen before. Those kind of products exist, right? And they are risky to create. The product is cool. The product serves a real purpose. The product actually solves things, but it is not marketable. Does that make sense? It's very hard to make money on a truly blue ocean. It's meaning a truly blue product where there's, you know what I mean? All right, 1991 is when the internet became publicly available for the public, right? When it became publicly available. It was being used way before that, right? The infrastructure, the whole economy, there was no infrastructure available for something like the internet for such a long time. It's the exact same issue that comes up with being too, right? The book Innovator's Dilemma talks about this very concept, right? By Clay Christensen from Harvard, right? That guy's amazing. It's the exact same concept. You can go too blue. And so it's not about product Big Bang Theory. It's about product evolution, okay? It's about product evolution, okay? Again, talking about products, not markets. Products, not offers, okay? And so and it kind of ties into the data-driven decisions, okay? You're gonna go and you're gonna funnel hack and you're gonna figure out how far somebody has carried that product. And then you're gonna figure out what you can add to it to make it different, not better. Does that make sense? Anyway, I know I've dived into this quite a bit, and this is a kind of a more technical episode. And I'm trying to make sure that like people understand what I'm trying to teach when I share this kind of stuff. Okay, it's about product evolution, not product Big Bang theory. Okay, it's about using data-driven decisions, all right, but to make you different, not better. Right? Most of the time, people make data-driven decisions. They take data to make them a little bit better than the competition. That's great to do once you already own a category, but it is not the way to dominate a category. Okay, you must craft something that has never existed, a category has never existed, and then use a product evolution to actually get people into that new place. Does that make sense? That was deep, probably too deep. I've done a lot of episodes, and I can feel there's not enough story in this one. But hopefully that makes sense to you guys, okay? This is the whole idea. When you take market data, meaning you ask people that hopefully will purchase from you, right? Right? And you add, right? You add the ridiculous ideas, right? You add ridiculous ideas, that equals good products. Right? Attractive products. Okay? Products that are talkable. That's basically it. That's how I do what I do. I see how far people have gone. I come and I add ridiculous ideas on top of it. I take away the things that are just not realistic, and I'm left with good products that people are like, crap, that was awesome. No one's ever done that before. And I'm like, I know, because I've done my research. I've gone through and I'm like, hey, check this out. No one, oh, this is what everyone's doing. This is how everybody's delivering that product. Then I just go in and I lace in my own nuts. Right? I lace in my own crazy. I lace in my own prolific zone. And when I add those two together, that's honestly what has left me with good products. Okay? I'm talking about products again, not offers. Anyway, guys, hopefully this is helpful to you. This is a deeper episode. I don't really like to go this deep on that. And I promise I'll go more story-based so that they're more interesting to listen to. But hopefully that makes sense to you. And hopefully you see why I do what I do in this stuff and what's going through my head when I start to see someone's product or their offer or whatever they're doing. Okay, there's a this whole game's so much more formalized and so much more formulated than I think people realize. Okay, it's not a scary thing. There's just a formula behind it. Once you learn the formula, it's not that hard. Dedicate yourself to learning the process. Fall in love with the process. Fall in love with the personal process that you're going through as you develop into a character that can actually create and actually own that product. Okay, most people I've found that are not the actual person they need to be in order to deliver the product to the market that they want to yet. So fall in love with the process of it. Don't judge yourself. It's okay. And start learning to enjoy, as you move forward and start moving down the road, this whole thing. I got one last quote here, okay? Oh crap, let me grab it. I dropped the book thinking that I was done here and I'm not. Okay, check this out. I don't remember who said this. I do not remember, but it's awesome. Enlightened trial and error succeeds over the planning of the lone genius. That's awesome. Enlightened trial and error succeeds over the planning of the lone genius. Okay? So just act. I'm not trying to cause analysis paralysis in anybody. Okay? Create your first iteration of the idea. Go try and sell it. See what happens. Right? Then take what they did, take what they didn't like about it, make adjustments, and then go relaunch. Right? Then take the adjustments and go relaunch. Then take the adjustments and go relaunch. That's all the game is, okay? That's all the game is. And pretty soon, you got it. That's the reason why we say you're just one funnel away. Because honestly, you are. You just keep, if you know you got a good idea, if you know the market's telling you yes, if you know there's a place for you to do things differently, not better, man, just keep rinse and repeat, and then suddenly it'll hit. Some of my products right now, like the Secret MLM Hacks one, that's the third time. The beginning of this year was the third time I've launched that product, not the first. Isn't that fascinating? Anyways, guys, thank you so much. Appreciate it. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this episode. I know it was a little bit deep, and I promise they will not be that crazy in the future, but I just had to get this one out because a lot of people ask. All right, guys, thanks so much. Talk to you later. Bye.
Boom! If you're just starting out, you're probably studying a lot. That's good. You're probably geeking out on all the strategies also, right? That's also good. But the hardest part is figuring out what the market wants to buy and how you should sell it to them, right? That's also what I struggled with for a while until I learned the formula. So I created a special mastermind called an offer mind to get you on track with the right offer and more importantly, the right sales script to get it off the ground and sell it. Want to come? There's small groups on purpose so I can answer your direct questions in person for 2 straight days. You can hold your spot by going to offermind.com. Again, that's offermind.com.